and which is attached to the oval window. The inner ear consists of the cochlea, a fluid-filled coiled tube that has the organ of Corti, basilar membrane, pectoral membrane, and the hair cells. So how does it work? The sound waves are collected by the retina and will pass through the auditory canal and strike the eardrum, which will vibrate. The bones connected to it, the humor, anvil, and stirrup, will also vibrate. The vibration from the stirrup will pass the oval window that will cause the fluid of the cochlea to form waves. The pressure waves will first be in the upper canal, then the middle, where the organ of Corti and the basilar membrane are. When the pressure waves are felt in the basilar membrane, it will vibrate. The hair cells embedded to it will cause it to bend, by which the ions channels in its plasma membrane will open and positive ions will enter the cell. Then the hair cell will develop a receptor potential and release more neurotransmitter molecules at its synapse with the sensory neuron. How is the quality of the sound determined? The higher the volume of a sound is, the higher is its amplitude of the pressure wave it generates. And the higher the pitch is, the higher the frequency wave is, and vice versa. In terms of loudness, a human can hear up to 120 decibels, while in frequency, a human can hear from 20 to 20,000 hertz. How is the quality of the sound determined? The higher the volume of a sound is, the higher is its amplitude of the pressure waves it generates. And the higher the pitch is, the higher the frequency wave is, and vice versa. In loudness, a human can hear up to 120 decibels, while in pitch, a human can hear from 20 to 20,000.
The inner ear. The inner ear is composed of few major parts. First is the three semicircular canals. These affect changes in the head shape of rotation. The second part is the cochlea. The cochlea contains the corti. Lastly is the two chambers, namely the utricle and the saccule. So how does the semicircular canals detect angular movement and the chambers detect the direction of rotation? The three semicircular canals are arranged in three planes, and it can therefore detect movement in all directions. Every time you rotate your head, the cupula, a jelly-like mass-tissue suspension in fixed fluid, moves against the hair cells, thus sending nerve signals to the brain. On the other hand, the two chambers detect the direction of the head relative to the force of gravity. The calcium carbonate present in the gelatinous materials are pulled by the gravity against the hair cells. Once these signals are detected by the brain, it sends signals to the skeletal muscles to balance the body.
Another sensory organ is the eye. Humans have single-lens eye that focus by changing position or shape. First, let us discuss the parts of the eye. Sclera is a tough, whitish layer of connective tissue of the outer surface of a human eyeball. Cornea is the transparent part of sclera at the front of the eye. Choroid is a pigmented layer surrounded by sclera, and the anterior choroid of the iris gives the eye its color. Pupil, the opening center of the iris. Lens focuses light onto a retina by bending light rays. Its focusing can occur in two ways. First, lens may be rigid like in squids and many fishes, and focusing occurs as muscle moves back or forth. Second, like in the mammalian eye, focusing is accomplished by changing the shape of the lens. The thicker the lens, the more sharply it bends light. Ligaments held the lens in position. Retina is a layer just inside the choroid where light is focused onto. Their two chambers make up the bulk of the eye. The vitreous humor is a jelly-like substance that fills the large chamber behind the lens, while the thinner aqueous humor fills the small chamber in front of the lens, and it supplies nutrients and oxygen to the lens iris and cornea, and it carries off wastes. These humors help maintain the shape of the eyeball. Glaucoma is caused by the blockage of ducts that drain the fluid, thus it increases pressure inside the eye that may lead to blindness. Conjunctiva lines the inner surface of the eyelids and folds back over the white of the eye, and its thin mucous membrane keeps the eye moist. Conjunctivitis or pink eye is an inflammation of the conjunctiva due to infection or allergic reaction. The ciliary muscles are attached to the choroid and ligaments and control the shape of the lens. Optic disc is known as the blind spot. Optic nerve sends out action potentials toward the brain. Here is an illustration of the eye's front view. Here is the pupil, iris, sclera, and eyelid, which also protects the eye from dirt. How does light enters the eye? First, cornea lets light into the eye and also helps focus light. It passes through the aqueous humor to the pupil, then to the lens. From the lens, it passes through the vitreous humor and focuses onto the retina. When the eye focuses on a nearby object, the ciliary muscles contract, pulling the choroid toward the lens, which reduces the tension on the ligaments. As the ligaments slacken, the elastic lens becomes thicker and rounder. This change, called accommodation, allows the diverging light rays from close object to be bent and focused. From distant objects, light comes in parallel rays that require less bending for proper focusing on the retina. When eye focuses on distant objects, the ciliary muscles relax, choroid moves away from the lens, puts tension on the ligaments, and flatten the lens. Let's watch this another video that shows how light enters the eye.
Mr. Einstein? Mr. Einstein, I've been reading about how the eye is a complex sensory organ that focuses light onto photoreceptors, the sensory cells of the eye, known as rods and cones. But how does light actually enter the eye so I can see objects?
Here's how it works. The eye is broken into two compartments that are separated by the lens and the ciliary body. A watery compartment in the front of the eye and a compartment filled with a gel-like material in the larger rear area of the eye. When light first enters the eye, it passes through the cornea, a fixed lens, which refracts or bends the light. Next, the light crosses the watery compartment and passes through the pupil. From there, it enters the adjustable lens, a transparent structure containing highly crystalline proteins. This time, the lens refracts the light. The ciliary body surrounds the lens, and its muscles and ligaments suspend and control the shape of the lens. For example, when you look at a distant object, the rays of light are almost parallel. Therefore, the lens can remain flat and focused on the retina, the inner layer of the eye that contains the photoreceptors. However, when you look at objects that are up close, the lens has to adjust to the scattered light rays. The ciliary body contracts, which forces the lens to become rounded in order to focus on the retina.
What about rods and cones?
They're located in the retina. Due to the refraction of light from the cornea and the lens, the image projected on the retina is inverted and reversed from left to right. After passing through several cellular layers, the light reaches the rods and cones. Rods and cones convert light energy into electrical impulses, which eventually reach the optic nerve.
What does the optic nerve do?
The optic nerve transmits visual information from the retina to the brain. The area in the brain where the visual information ends up is known as the visual cortex. The visual cortex compiles all the information sent to us from the eye and through the optic nerve, and this is how the brain lets us see the world.
Drew!
Visual problems. When you have your vision tested by an ophthalmologist, you are asked to read letters in a spelling chart. This chart measures your visual acuity, the ability of your eyes to distinguish fine details,